All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to Penn Live Harrisburg Next Forum on Public Safety and Crime. My name is John Misick. I'm the paper's opinion editor. We've got with us tonight Harrisburg Mayor Eric Pavinkis, Police Chief Thomas Carter, Dr. Eileen Allen of Penn State Harrisburg, and Jimmy Wilson from Harvey from the YMCA here in Camp Curtin. What I'd like to do is ask each of our panelists to make a 4-minute opening statement, and then we'll roll right into your questions and ask as many of them as we possibly can. We have a microphone right over here, so if you want to just stride on up to the microphone and ask your questions. Some of you have note cards, so you can pass those up, and my very able deputy, Matt Zenzi, who will be moderating tonight, will ask your questions for you. And again, I'll let our panelists know that it's a firm 4 minutes. The chief is kind enough to let me a taser, and I'm not afraid to use it. All right, so Mayor, we'll start with you.
Okay, fine. And is there a countdown clock or anything?
I actually have one right here.
Be nice.
All
right. Can everyone hear me? Do I need to move the mic? Are we good? Great. Well, it's nice to see everyone. Thank you for having us out. I'm going to let the chief talk about some of the statistics and the realities of where we stand so far along in the year. But the bottom line is that crime is down, violent crime is down significantly in the city of Harrisburg. And I attribute it to the new leadership of the department, the emphasis on community policing, and a sort of new model of accountability, which the chief can elaborate on. But I don't think it is an accident, and we're working very hard. We're also planning to hire. I know there's been much in the news about a hiring freeze, and that is true. But some of the first positions that we will be releasing on June 1st are the new officer cadets for the police academy. Already discussed it with the chief. We believe we can hire all 10 of those new cadets, and that'll help us a lot in terms of bringing our complement up. I wanted to talk a little bit about blight and codes, because that's been a major important part of our shift here with public safety. And I know there was a lot in the news about the recent building collapse on Dairy Street. People may have seen that I had called for the district attorney to bring misdemeanor charges in that case. And the district attorney was generally unwilling to do that because of the specific circumstances. If you speak to the owner of that property, he said he bought it at a tax sale, didn't even know what property he was buying, got stuck with it, tried to shore it up, and really didn't want it to begin with. I wasn't personally too sympathetic to that, but I understand there's a different circumstance there in terms of notice on the part of the city to the property owner, as what happened in the Sullivan case, where there was a lot of notice and a long paper trail. So we've tried to approach it from a new angle, which is going straight to the county and the tax sale bureau. And on June 12th, for the next tax sale, we have amazing new changes that are going to be happening for the sale. For one, every bidder is going to have to sign a waiver, basically, at the beginning, saying that they understand that they may be purchasing a property that's condemned, and they understand if it's condemned, that it means they have to do the following. It has the city's contact information on it. And in addition to that, at the sale, before any condemned properties are sold, they will be announced as being condemned. Now you might say, why hasn't any of this happened before? I can't tell you why it hasn't happened before. It should have happened before, but it's going to happen now, and that's a very positive thing. We've also instituted a review committee internally on the city in terms of houses that are selling off the repository list. If houses don't sell at these tax sales, they end up eventually on a repository list. And the practice in the past was just to sell them to whoever would offer $350, basically, which was the minimum price. And we're finding those properties ending up on eBay and elsewhere, being purchased by people that don't live in the city. So we're changing that. We now have a three-pronged review. We're evaluating the buyer to see if the buyer has any outstanding tax debts in the city of Harrisburg. We are also interviewing the buyer. The codes administrator is calling each of the buyers, trying to find out why they're interested in purchasing the properties. And we've already had some success. We called several buyers and said, did you know this was a condemned property? And they said, no, I don't want to buy it. And so we've prevented certain sales. And we're also having our economic development crew look at those purchases in an effort to mesh them with our overall housing strategy, which you'll hear more about as we undergo our comprehensive plan. But to try and make sure that certain strategic properties in certain areas perhaps are able to be accumulated and sold as part of a larger collection of land. So those are some of the things we're doing on the code side of things, and I'll let the chief talk to you more about the policing and statistics.
Chief Carter.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I can talk for 4 minutes. I'm the chief of police. I'm not a politician or anything like that, so.
You can reserve the badge anytime.
Anyway, as the mayor said, well, first of all, thank you for having us here. I grew up here. I spent an awful lot of time in this ward. I can see that certain things haven't changed, like no central air in this room right here. So, as the mayor said, crime is down, violent crime is down. We have 90 fewer violent crimes than we did at the same time last year. The officers are out there working hard. Just to read you, just some stats and what have you. Arrests this year from January 01, this is up until the end of March. My uniformed patrol officers have arrested over 1,194 people. That's an awful lot of people. And then this year in August, we came out with a $100,000 cash bail for felons or illegal persons caught with guns, handguns. So far, we have arrested 4 young men speaking at their statute, and they were all given $100,000 cash bail. So far this year, uniformed patrol people have taken over 32 seized handguns off of the streets of our great city. That's 32 handguns. And most of these handguns were taken before this here $100,000 bail piece came out. We have seized 19 other guns. There's investigations going on right now, and those 2 people are also pending charges. Due to 6 city deaths, we're holding 6 more guns. So we are out there, working for you. Looking at Harrisburg. Harrisburg communities are different. Each neighborhood is different. They all have like different needs. District 3 is different from District 2, District 5 from District 1. So what we're looking at the evidence-based stats. We're looking at evidence-based stats. We're looking at, to see, what the neighborhoods need. We're looking to police those neighborhoods differently. The times of us just throwing money into neighborhoods like saturation details and different things like that, that's just over with, because first of all, the city is still under a softer Act 47, so we don't really have that much money to be thrown into different areas. But what we have done, we have looked at real data, analyzed that data, and we're putting people into the areas that need to be there. So yes, the crime rate is down, the violent crime rate is down. I don't want to jinx my people. Captain Moody's standing right there. He's probably saying, please don't say this, Chief, but I'm going to say it anyway. Last year at the time, we had 8 homicides by gunfire. 8 homicides. This year, we have 1 homicide by gunfire. Now, to me, 1 is too many. But, we cannot control everything. We have 3 homicides year to date, 2 domestic violence homicides, which we can't control, but we only have 1 gun shooting. The actual shootings so far this year, they're down. And I contribute to my officers out there engaging people. We have over 2,400 foot patrols logged, and that data is only up until last month. Now, there's more, but we didn't get the data yet for those stats. If you look at Harrisburg, Harrisburg is not a community that is vertical. We don't have a lot of high rises, where people live at. It's a horizontal neighborhood. And that there brings, a vertical neighborhood, that brings different problems, because you got people living on top of each other. You have high-rise buildings, so there's a different way to police that area. A horizontal neighborhood, they have different needs and what have you too, but everything is flat here. And for me, unlike New York, unlike Philly, it is easier to police. But the main thing is that we need more manpower. The mayor has been gracious enough to give us that. Public safety is the priority down there, the #1 priority. Everything is public safety. We talk every day, and he wants to put more police officers out there working for you. I believe in Harriet Tubman. We all read about Harriet Tubman, you know, how like she freed the slaves and things like that. But to me, the greatest thing about Harriet Tubman is that she kept going back. She kept going back, and that's the attitude that the police have. We will keep going back to these certain neighborhoods until Harrisburg is a safer neighborhood and community for everybody. I guarantee that my officers will keep going back, doing their job time and time again. Thank you.
And you didn't have to worry about filling time at all. Fantastic. Professor Allen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eileen Allen with the School of Public Affairs. I teach criminal justice at Penn State Harrisburg, and you might wonder what I'm doing here on this panel of criminal justice practitioners. But I recently joined the faculty at Penn State Harrisburg, and one of my research interests is neighborhoods. There's also violence. And moving to the area last year, I was very interested in what was going on in Harrisburg. You hear these stereotypes that Harrisburg is very violent, very crime prone. And I was very interested in what was going on and learning more about that. Not only to see what was going on, but to understand what practices were being used. Another one of my research areas is evaluation. We always want to have evidence-based practices, as Chief Carter talked about, and it seems that the community is engaging in a lot of those practices that do have evidence behind them. You don't want to do things that just feel right. You want to know that they're actually going to have good results. So my interest has stemmed from that, and I was invited here to, I think, provide more of an academic viewpoint and answer some questions maybe about the types of programs that are being utilized and what else might we be able to do. Again, I am new to Harrisburg, so I don't know the history as in depth as the folks here that have been here much longer, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm very excited about the initiatives that have been proposed by the new administration. I think it's a real positive perspective that they're bringing, so I'm excited to take part, and I'm under 4.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, my name is Jamie Harvey. I'm the Executive Director here at the Camp Curtin YMCA. I'm also a proud graduate of Harrisburg High School. Grew up right here in this community, actually on the Allison Hill, not necessarily uptown, but grew up right here in the city of Harrisburg, and had several mentors who have mentored me throughout that life spell, and I continue to try to mentor others also. I'm here from a program standpoint today. I took over for Mr. Roland Harrison about 3 years ago, and it's been a ride. We've tried to do everything and everything that we possibly can do for the community and for the youth. Like I said, we need mentors. So we've gone out and we've also created different programs, for the community and for the youth. We focus on 3 major things, and one being education, the other being, mentoring, but we do also have sports. A lot of our kids are definitely involved in sports, but we continue, the education and the mentoring also. We consider ourselves a one-stop shop for every type of kid, okay? So when you start off at 5 or 6, we have our after-school programming for you. We have our soccer, we have our bitty ball, basketball leagues. And the goal is to keep all of those youth and continue them into programs like Youth Achievers, okay? So they'll go from a Youth Achievers program into a Teen Achievers program. They'll go from the Teen Achievers program where we carry them on as alumni in college, where they actually come back here to the Camp Curtin YMCA and work and also mentor our youth and, volunteer in a lot of different capacities. But with that, every child is not perfect. Every kid is not perfect. I wasn't perfect as a child either. Everybody needs a second chance. We have another program called Man Up. We have another program called Sisters Helping Sisters, where we work with Judge Cherry in the county to assist these different juveniles who have made those mistakes. Like I said, I was a juvenile who made a mistake at one time also, but it took good people. Hopefully, like I continue to try to be, for the youth and bring them back here into the YMCA and take them off the streets. Once they come here and they, realize that this is a safe haven, and they realize, the staff that I have here and myself have been through it, and that we're definitely genuine in everything that we do, this definitely becomes a home for all of them. So like I said, Camp Curtin YMCA here from, program standpoint, definitely willing to take any questions in regards to, that.
All right, I'm going to turn the program over to Matt Sensi, the Deputy Opinion Editor at Penn Live. And for those of you who have come in late, We have a microphone right over here. Just you can start lining up to ask questions. Some of you also have note cards, so if you feel uncomfortable with coming up to the microphone, you can have them passed up to Matt, and he can ask your question for you. So we're going to try to get in as many as we can. Matt.
Want to do the dance? Want to do the? All right. All right, thanks everybody for coming out. Thanks, John, for handling that portion of our program. I just want to make a note of a couple of folks who are here. We have Jeffrey Baltimore, the new member of the City Council. You want to stand up and let people see you? Am I correct that you will be in charge of the Public Safety Committee on City Council?
Not
Yes, that is
definitely yet,
correct.
but probably.
Probably not 100% yet. Okay. All right. Well, in any event, I'm sure his ears are open to your concerns, so feel free to grab him afterwards. We also have Joyce Davis, Communications Director, for Mayor Papenfuse here, and Captain Derek Moody in the back. Do we have any other members that would like folks to know if you're here? I don't recognize anyone else. Okay, all right. Well, I would encourage folks to go ahead and start. If you want to ask your question, head up to the mic. We did get a couple questions in advance, and I will ask them, and then I will read these so I can get caught up. One question we had concerned a police call. I think it was in Uptown. The email was not quite clear, but the situation unfolded like this, so I guess it's a question of Chief Carter. Call into the police, shots fired, took 20 minutes before a car showed up. It was nighttime. The car drove down the alley, turned the big light on, and drove away. Didn't contact any of the members of the neighborhood who might have known something about what happened. Could you explain how you would like a situation like that to be handled? Is it standard procedure, or there are some issues that maybe residents don't understand about a situation like that? Is there something that residents can do in a situation like that to encourage greater engagement with the responding officers?
Yes, it's unfortunate that we get a lot of calls for shots fired because we have a lot of kids out there just randomly shooting. On the response time, I would have to pull up the dispatch to look at what was going on that night, to answer the response time. But generally, when we get a call for shots fired, the individual calling does not want the police to contact them. They just say, there's shots fired somewhere, and they always tell the dispatchers to tell the officers, do not contact me, do not knock on my door, because I do not want to be labeled as that snitch. So, the officers went up there, they looked around. Me personally, I'm disappointed if they didn't get out the car, because they should have gotten out the car. We were just given, brand new police cars, climate control. It's nice outside, but you miss policing when you don't get out the car and walk around that neighborhood to see what's going on. So if you have the incident number or the person's name, I will look into that situation, because I do not like that. They should have gotten out the car. But usually people do not like for us to knock on the door or anything like that, because they don't want to be labeled as a snitch.
Right. So if you were willing to be contacted by the responding officer, could you mention that to dispatch, and would that be included in the information that gets passed on to the officer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So folks, if you're willing to help the responding officer with information about the situation you've called in, make sure dispatch knows. Captain Moody.
Yeah, if I could just touch on what the chief mentioned. A lot of times when people call in, a thing that kind of helps us and what actually helps us the best, and I don't want to put anyone in harm's way, is a description. Sometimes just people shooting up here, and that may be all that you see or maybe all that you hear. But if you see something, or you see something that can give us a little bit more to go up and talk to people, especially specific people, that makes it a little easier for us to be able to approach. One of the things that I remind people, and I'm sure everyone in this room understands, that for us, we operate in a framework. We have rules and we have laws that we have to abide by. Where sometimes the bad guys, they don't operate by the same laws and rules. So we have to do everything the correct way, especially if we want to prosecute someone. I mean, if we rush in and do something the wrong way, and I'm not making excuses for anything, but if we do something the wrong way, we lose a case. And then what confidence does the community have in the police department if we're not doing our job the correct way? So I just wanted to just kind of touch on one of the things as you think about it, if you can call in, obviously, description, location, maybe we're at, anything more than just we're shooting up here helps us, but sometimes you're not able to provide that, so I just wanted to add that to it.
Okay, and before we go to the microphone, let me ask the one other question that came in advance, and it has to do with crime prevention. And is David Botero here? Or was he had a conflict. David Botero is the community liaison officer who's helping communities and neighbors figure out how they can get involved in making their neighborhood safer. Probably a better question for him. But the question was, we had a break-in last year at my house. Just recently, a neighbor had a break-in, so they're feeling pretty unsafe. Chief Carter, would you have any recommendations for a situation like that? Is there something they should do? Should they call David and get in touch? What advice would you give?
You know, they can call David naturally, you know, but one of the main things that, you know, criminals don't like to be seen. Increase your lighting, you know, make sure you know that your exterior is well lit, and alarms help, you know. But the main thing is that, you know, make sure that you know your neighbors. You know, because neighbors need to look out for neighbors more. And, you know, that's something, you know, that, you know, that's a culture that David and I and the mayor and the administration is like trying to change. Trying to get Harrisburg to know their neighbors and to communicate with each other. Communication is the key. You know, if your neighbor sees something, you know, they can either call you up, call the police, and just help each other out. Neighbors need to be more neighbor up here and watch out for each other.
Okay, so I have a question for the professor. In some reading I've done on crime, my understanding is that one of the best defenses against crime in the home is a dog. Is that correct? Would you recommend? These people had reported that the burglaries took place while they were sleeping. So I'm thinking, well, if you had a dog, maybe the dog would.
Well, I don't think it's going to hurt, but I don't know of any literature that has done.
No
has
double-blind, no double-blind tests of
There have
dogs.
been no randomized experiments of dogs versus dogs that I'm aware of. Having been an owner of 2 Dobermans, I can attest to them having been very good watchdogs.
Right.
But I agree with what Chief Carter has said. Increased lighting, reduce in both the front and the back of your home. Trimming your bushes so that they're not blocking a window where somebody could enter. Making sure your windows are locked and your doors are locked. Sometimes we forget, and those things can be easy access. Not leaving valuable property outside. Just reducing your target hardening is what they call it. That can be very effective. But it would be interesting to know if there are other crimes going on in that area, if it's a hot spot of criminal activity that might need to be targeted, depending on what else is going on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not aware of any research on dogs, but I do encourage dog ownership.
Okay, very good. And the police will encourage you to pick up after your dog,
Yes.
which is a series of complaints that we've heard in other forums. Okay, Mr. Johnson, would you like to offer your question or comment?
Good evening, my name is Melvin Johnson, 2100 North 6th Street, the Fair Housing Council. There has been intermittent discussion about cameras and microphones as it relates to shootings in the community. I'd like to have an update as to how pervasive is that, how it's being used, is it being effective, has that affected the crime, and what is the future use and plans, given money allocations, for the increased use of cameras and microphones in the community.
I'll just say that we strongly support the use of cameras. Let's let the chief and perhaps Captain Moody talk about how they're being used.
We have cameras in the hotspot areas, in our target areas of the city. We have cameras downtown, we have cameras uptown here. The cameras have been very helpful. We're looking to put 5 more cameras up soon. My goal and the mayor's goal, and we don't know how we're going to do this yet, but you know, we're trying to find a way to fund it. And when I get with Mr. Baltimore, I want to give him his first headache, because I would love to put 50 cameras up in the city in the targeted areas. Cameras have solved numerous crimes for us. It has stopped crime, it has stopped violent crime in the downtown area. There was a firebombing down on 4th Street recently. We captured that with our cameras. So the information that we do get from cameras is very, very helpful and deters crime.
Is there, could you talk about whether there are any plans to have cameras on dumping hotspots? I took a tour of the city with Aaron Johnson, and he showed me a number of places where illegal dumping is occurring, and that's, one of the worst aspects of blight is when people just start dumping stuff in your neighborhood and you don't know who they are, and once it gets started, it just sort of, cascades on itself. So is there any effort underway on that front?
Yes,
Chief
sir.
or
No,
Mr.
there's
Mayor?
conversation about having that done, but everything is a cost issue right now. We're looking at ways to fund those projects, but yes, the trash in the city is just horrendous. It's just sickening to me how someone could come in the city and just dump mounds of tires. But it also sickens me that these are in neighborhoods where people live at, and no one ever sees anything. I mean, the police is only as good as the people, and, we need your help too, because we're a reactionary organization. But so that there means that we need the help of everybody to solve this problem. So, but we are talking about putting cameras up.
So would you recommend people call the non-emergency police number if they see illegal dumping, or should they call 911?
I will call 558-6900. That's 558-6900. That's the county dispatch number. If you can, give all the information about, race, vehicle, license plate, direction of travel, cargo, that they dumped, and different things like that. And that will be really helpful.
Can I just jump in and say that we have 5 more cameras coming soon from the county. It is a question of funding, and one of the ways that we're looking at possibly funding cameras is through the lighting conversion project that we were just at the beginning stages of for this year. But apparently in Detroit and in elsewhere, there are ways to tie in both gunshot detectors, which sort of speak to the issue of microphones, and additional cameras as a part of the overall LED light conversion process. Do them both at the same time, maybe fund them that way. The cameras, as I've seen them in action, work extremely well. They're very, very powerful tools, and the software and the equipment is there to be able to add a lot more to our system. But there's also the possibility of tying cameras, possibly a slightly different system, to a gunshot detector on a light, which can then capture a specific event and isn't necessarily monitored or recording all the time. So we're looking into that technology. It's relatively new, and it could pay dividends here in Harrisburg.
Okay, very good. Next question.
My name is Michelle Lindoffa. I live on the corner of Penn and Woodbine Streets here uptown. Just in the past 7 days, in the past week, we had the shooting at a 15-year-old's birthday party, to which the police did respond 20 minutes later, and as the other person stated, never even got out of the vehicle. They came down the road with their lights off, made the siren go off, and proceeded to leave, never asked anybody questions that was out there in the street or anything. The following day, there was a vandalism of the mother's vehicle, was spray painted by some kids, probably from the party. And the day after that, there was an assault between some young people on the street. So 3 days in a row in the past 7 days, we've experienced crime on our street, and nothing has gone on to change it. I don't feel like the cops responded or did what they should have done. They added extra lights last fall to our block because it's known as not one of the safer blocks. But as a mother and also expecting, I feel like, how am I supposed to feel safe in my city when 3 crimes happen in 1 week and none of them are being handled?
And Chief, could you speak up using the microphone? They were having a little trouble hearing you in the back.
Oh, okay. I heard a couple problems there, with the response from the police not getting out the car. But I also heard, that they were targeting a certain individual or individuals at that party. Now, it's unfortunate, that my officers did not get out the car, engage the parents of the party. But the people having the party who they were targeting, they probably know who these people are. So we have a couple problems. I don't have any information on that situation that I can really talk about right now. But what I will do, I will direct you to Captain Moody, give him the actual time and the date, and he will pull up that information tomorrow, and he will get back with you on what happened to the police response. and, you know, why they didn't talk to anyone. You see,
Yeah, I
because.
was one of several people that called 911 that
Okay.
night, so they
Okay.
have my name.
And did you tell the dispatchers that you wanted to talk to the police?
Yes, oh, well, they had never even asked me, but yes, I did say that they could contact me, but they didn't even offer to. But they did notify me that I was one of several people who were calling in at that time for that incident.
I'm not gonna make up any excuses for that kind of behavior by my officers. That will be dealt with. If you can talk to Captain Moody back there, I guarantee you know that we will get back with you and that something will be done.
It does sound like maybe there was some communication issues between dispatch, Dauphin County Dispatch, and the city police too. If they didn't get all your information, you can call the police directly to follow up, and we'll do that tonight after this. But we take it very seriously. It's possible dispatch didn't convey all that information to the police.
Well, I called 911 and they asked for my name and my phone number and my address, and I gave them all of that.
Go ahead and move up. I'm going to throw a question out to Mr. Harvey. We have two folks who are interested in learning more about what the Y is doing, working with young people, and what sort of success stories you might have in trying to help kids stay on the straight and narrow. Can you fill us in a little bit more on the Man Up program and the Sisters Helping Sisters and any other efforts that you're doing with the kids to help them stay on the right path?
Yeah, like I said before, with the Man Up and Sisters Helping Sisters program, they come to us from the county courts. You know, we work in collaboration with, you know, Judge Terry. We also work with children and youth, and it is a second chance program. So with that program, the kids actually come here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they're here from the time they get off of school to almost 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. With that program, they do several community service projects in the community, trying to, you know, clean up a lot of the trash and whatnot, teaching the kids to definitely take, you know, more pride in their community. With that, you know, they also receive some life skills. They also receive some drug prevention. But they also receive a lot of feedback from people like myself and some of the other staff members that I have here, who, you know, work with them in groups to actually, you know, mentor those youth. And like I said, with those youth, once we normally get them here in the building, a lot of them normally stay. Their memberships are pretty much, you know, voided. They can pretty much come and go as they please, long as they're, you know, doing something, you know, structured inside of the building. And a lot of the kids do come in, you know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, even though they're mandated to be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So with the mandations from the court, you know, a lot of the kids normally don't want to be here. But as they come here and continue to build those relationships and whatnot, we are able to keep a lot of the kids here in the Y and off the streets.
Okay, very good. I think I'd like to ask Professor Allen if she has any perspective on the kinds of youth-oriented engagement programs that work. What touchstones should we look for as we try to get people more involved in helping our youth?
Well, again, I'm new here, but I'm very encouraged in what I've learned just sitting here today talking with, I'm sorry, your name again?
Mr. Candidate, Robert Candidate.
Robert Candidate, and talking with you just briefly. Mentoring is one of the strongest programs, the one that has a lot of evidence base to it. I mean, we all know Big Brothers Big Sisters. That's one of the programs that has been tried and tested, and a lot of evaluation dollars from the federal government has gone into to establish its effectiveness. So any mentoring type program is very effective. So I'm encouraged that those programs are established in the community. And coming from the community, I think it's more important. More important to have people who represent the people who are in need of mentoring, so that there can be those established, I made it. I'm someone who's successful in this area, you can make it too. So I think that mentoring relationship is very important there. So I'm encouraged by that. There's other programs. Schools Within Schools is a program to make the community a little smaller. There's other programs that maybe aren't as effective, but maybe have a touchy-feely, good kind of feeling for the community, that have other benefits to them. But I think mentoring is one of the more established, true, programs for juveniles.
Okay, and I'm sure Mr. Harvey would be happy to take names and contact information from any of you who would like to help with mentoring. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's always a need. I did mentoring myself previously, and it's a rewarding experience.
Sir?
Yes, my name is David Smith. I just had a question in regards to the redevelopment of the county dispatch system, as far as, creating all the joining boroughs into one dispatch line. How do you guys plan on, handling that volume of calls?
And we do have another question, written question as well, about how that is working. If one of the questions was, do you always call 911, or sometimes should you call the non-emergency number? Both numbers are run through the county, right?
Yes.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about when to call the non-emergency number, when to call the emergency number, and kind of what happens from there. And maybe it sounds like dispatch needs to make sure that they give the contact information from the lady who spoke, for example, to your officers, so they know there's somebody there who's willing to help them.
When the city lost its dispatch system, that set us back because we were used to our own dispatch system. The county came in because we needed help. They took over and they're helping now. Agreeing with the county dispatch system, it's a good dispatch system. I know for Harrisburg alone, like last year, we fielded about 60,000 calls last year. We handle more calls than all the combined agencies in the whole area. They do an excellent job there. They hired a bigger staff to handle the call volume, and I think that is good. It's a two-pronged sword there, because all the dispatchers are going into one central agency and they can dispatch them out. But then, you have Susquehanna police officers listening to Harrisburg, what's going on inside our city. You have Lower Paxton, Swadar, and that's good because you have different officers coming into the city, handling calls, talking to the people, getting to know our city residents. And, they're saying, well, wow, there's some great people in this city. So it just sort of ties everything in together. So, sometimes, the response is slow, but we are getting better at that. I think it's a great ideal.
Chief and the mayor, there's talk about countywide police consolidation. Where would Harrisburg fit in if that happened?
Well, Harrisburg's part of the conversation and leading the conversation. I think we've already shown great cooperation with the surrounding municipalities, whether it's with our initiative with Susquehanna Township, where Public Safety Director Martin has been consulting, or whether it's with our constant work with Chief Umberger and the other surrounding chiefs. And as the chief himself, Chief Gardner, just said, part of what's happening now is that you have the surrounding municipalities listening in and paying attention to what's going on in Harrisburg and meeting regularly to discuss how we can cooperate, how we can consolidate. I think Chief Martin was just talking about how Susquehanna has some older cars that they no longer need and they're upgrading. That's the sort of thing that could be shared. I think regionalism is the wave of the future. I think it will benefit everyone. There are issues of capacity, like you raised with the dispatch, that have to be addressed, but it should be a cost savings for everyone. And the city is the center of the center of the wheel. It is the police force that really, I think, is fundamentally admired by all the surrounding municipalities and will be the centerpiece of any type of regional plan. You want to add to that?
Yes, I was asked to join the board to regionalize there. We're in conversation. I believe that our first meeting is on the 27th of this month. We're going to sit down, talk about, look at things. There's a lot of things to consider before we can get that done. The political aspect of it. You got to look at the police officers, the union. You got to look at the pay scale of the different agencies. I know that Deary Township is one of the highest paid agencies here, compared to maybe a Paxton, Pembroke, or something like that. So there's many different levels to work out to the whole situation, but I believe in it. It is very doable. I think that Harrisburg would benefit tremendously from it, and I think it'll be a way, that the whole county comes together as a whole. So I'm all for it. Okay. But again, this is probably 5 years off, maybe even 10 years, but you got to start with your planning stages. This is our planning stage.
Okay. While we change places in line over there, let me ask a question from the audience. and this probably goes to the professor and to Mr. Harvey as well, a concern that young black men are hit harder with sentencing for first offenses while young white men are given a free pass or lighter treatment. I'm wondering, Mr. Harvey, if you could comment, are you seeing that? And then maybe the professor can give us some perspective on how this type of concern has been addressed or studied in other situations.
Yeah, from a Camp Curtin YMCA standpoint, I'm not aware of any of those cases, so I really can't, speak any facts on that question.
And Professor, what do we know about disparate treatment of first offenders having to do with either poverty or the race of the offender?
Well, there's definitely research that's been done, and I can't speak locally, but at least in Pennsylvania, there's been some professors at Penn State main campus that have looked into the racial disparities in sentencing, and across the board, and whether it's first offender, multiple offender, and independent of the crime that's been committed, young African-American males are unfortunately more likely to receive harsher sentences. They receive more prison sentences as well than their white counterparts. The same is also seen for Hispanic young males as well. So there is research that establishes that. What's being done to change that? I'm not sure. That's a question that has been ongoing, and in the criminal justice system we've seen a change where previously most of the discretion, so to speak, was with the judge. And then we came into sentencing guidelines, right, in the 70s, trying to change that because we understood that there were these disparities, trying to make things more equal. Well, that kind of shifted the discretion to the prosecutor in whether or not to prosecute a certain case. And a lot of that was still based on race, still based on the crime that occurred, and a variety of other things, other factors. So we haven't eliminated that disparity. The intention was there to try to reduce it, but I think we've just shifted it. But in general, there is a lot of disparity that has not been overcome, and I'm not quite sure how to get there, and I don't know even if there have been improvements over time in reducing that. I think a lot of that is a regional perspective too. If you're policing in certain areas, you're going to arrest the people where you're policing too. So I think that has to come into play when you're looking at the data. If you're policing in an African-American neighborhood, those are the people you're going to arrest. So I think we need to take that with a grain of salt as well when looking at potential disparities.
Okay, sir.
If I can say something.
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
that.
Go ahead, Chief.
I just want to just add, we cannot, the only thing that we can do for our youth is to raise them not to get in trouble. It's like, you have a black youth over here in the city selling cocaine, crack, cocaine. You have a white youth over like Cumberland County selling coke, powder coke. They're both cocaine based, but they say, that the crack cocaine gets into your system faster, so it's more dangerous than what the powder is. Well, to me, I can't say the way that I really feel about that, but it just tells me that we have all of this proof, all this evidence, that blacks are given, longer sentences. So that tells me, but the bigger problem becomes that don't commit the crime. Do not give anybody that much power over your life. Don't do it. And that's what we have to teach our kids, Do not give people power over your life. Teach them education, give them books to read, get into their lives like what they need, and then, we can bring about a balance where it won't be that problem. That's what I want to say.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Next question.
Matt, if I could follow up with that.
Oh, okay.
Just one quick. You're correct, and there was a reduction, the Fair Sentencing Act that Obama passed, reduced the disparity from crack cocaine. It used to be 100 to 1 in terms of sentencing, and it's been reduced to 1 to 18, which is better, but there's really no difference, but it's still targeting minority youth, which is unfortunate. Thank you.
Sir.
Yes, I'm Walter Barnes at 4th Street here in Harrisburg. I have a situation here, and I'm going to give you a very stripped scenario here of the occurrence. On April the 3rd, a perpetrator trespassed on personal property with the intent to do bodily harm by knocking a 17-year-old down on his back and fled. Police was called. the police came, an incident report was taken. I must emphasize this perpetrator was 33 years old, alleged 33 years old. The child was 17 years old. And again, the police was called. An incident report was taken. There were several attempts made to get information pertaining to the incident report without any success. Eventually, a trip was made to the police station. We spoke with a young lady up on second floor in records. She gave a number to call, so we called that particular number. We got the officer involved. He called back with the question as what do you want now? We went through the information as to the wife is very nervous and very afraid in her own home that this perpetrator may come back and harm other than the 17-year-old. As well as there are 4 police officers living in the immediate area, and if this perpetrator is that bold to come in the area and hit a minor without any regards to the police officer, what is this person eligible or capable of doing?
So, sir, is your question, what can the police do better to respond to a situation like this?
Well, there's a little bit more to it. There's a lot more, but there's a little bit more.
Well, we have a long line, so if you could kind of cut to the chase there.
Okay, then I called again and didn't get a response. So now my question is, what are we to do, or what methodology are we to take to acquire an answer based on the incident? And if we get an answer on the incident, or if we can't get an answer on the incident, what is my next move, to file a civil suit or what?
Okay, Chief Carter, maybe one question is, has there been an arrest in this case, or is the suspect still at large? Or you don't know?
Still at large.
I understand what you're saying about a youth was assaulted by a grown-up adult. I really don't have too much information there. I don't have the paperwork sitting here. I don't know the officers who responded. I don't know, what they did. There has to be research before I can give you a correct answer, not a good answer, but a correct answer. I want to answer you honestly. If the officer didn't do anything with it, I also want to look at you face to face, man to man, and say they didn't take action, and I will correct that behavior. Captain Moody's like looking at me right now and saying, send him out there so I can get the information so like he can research it. Just to be fair, we need to do that.
Yeah. Sir, it looks like Captain Moody is waving, so it sounds like you might have a chance to chat him up right there. And let's go to the next questioner.
Hi, my name is Arlene Tolbert, and I have a couple of questions. I'm going to shift gears. Mine is dealing with safety, and it is a big, costly problem. The streets, which are horrible, lots of potholes, costly, of course, on us, but dangerous on the other hand. When you go through Fulton Street from 19 all the way down, there are no stop signs, nor are there speed limit signs. There's like nothing on there. And my question would be, who determines the safety of these streets? And what's the priority, and how are these things fixed? The potholes, and when are they on your list to do? It's just something that's going to happen to correct these issues.
Sounds like a question for Mr. Mayor. Grab the mic and let's hear what you have to say.
So regarding the stop signs, those aren't signs that have been taken down and never replaced. They just don't exist, right? Or
I haven't seen them exist, and I haven't
Right.
been here long. So I heard one time they took them down. I'm not sure.
Well, I'll tell
They're
you,
not there.
that's a pretty straightforward thing. Mr. Baltimore is here in the audience, who's the head of the public safety chair, and we can change the traffic control map to add a stop sign. If there's a process, it'll go through the city engineer's office, and that can be done. So you have to let us know where you think it should be, and maybe that will address that particular issue. With regard to the potholes, also be happy to have you tell me where they are, and I will report them to our Public Works Department. And we'll do it. So, if there's a specific one, if you want the truth, I mean, they have a long list of potholes throughout the city, and they're out there every day doing what they can to replace what we can. It is fundamentally a financial issue. We have a very limited budget. We have in our budget about $250,000 total to deal with all paving needs throughout the whole city. Now, we've got some other pots of money that we're trying to access, one of which is some funds that are coming promised from PennDOT, but that all has to go through an engineering process, and that's really about a repaving project for an entire road, more so than potholes. And we have the money that was set aside as a part of the Strong Plan in an infrastructure trust. And that is the money that I would like to see us be able to access sooner rather than later to deal with the pothole issues. There's a task force that's been formed. They are currently meeting, and hopefully we can access that money before the end of the year. That's also the same money that I want to try and access to pay for the lighting project that we've talked about. I recognize the importance of doing these things, and we're all going to have a conversation about how we prioritize the use of the limited resources that we have. And I think that lighting and fixing the street should be the top priorities for the infrastructure silo.
Okay, well, Fulton Street, please put that on there. Because if you ride from off of Paffer straight down, there's a hole and it had a cone in it, but people drove over the cone. So now there's a big hole there. And in order to get around it, you have to go on the pavement to drive, to go through it. It's horrible. And then there's an incident from the firehouse, the fire engine, fire station on that street there. It's just messed up. There are a lot of streets, but those are the ones that I always hit. So, yes, Peffer.
Okay.
So, and Peffer, yes.
And if I understand correctly, you would, Mr. Mayor, you would encourage people to go on the city website if they can and file a 311 information report there on the situation, potholes or streetlights or stop signs or whatever?
Yes, I believe you've done that yourself, right?
Guilty as charged.
There is, in fact, look, we are trying as best we can, but we have a new tracking system where if you report an issue, such as a specific pothole, you'll have that issue tracked and you'll get a response, and we will try to address it as quickly as we can. So that is an option that you have right now. But you won't have to do it for Fulton Street, because I've got that one right now, and I'll make sure that we do it. Just recognize that we do have limited resources, and we're trying to prioritize as best we can. But the more active everyone in this room is in terms of speaking to us and communicating your needs and your priorities to city government, the better we can do our job. Okay?
And one more repair, since I was talking about repair. Here, they have a pool, I think, sir, Mr. Harvey. They have a pool here. What is the status on that, or do y'all prepare, are y'all intending to do something about the pool, to repair it?
The pool currently right now is closed. The pool currently right now is closed indefinitely until we come up with about $600,000 worth of money to actually fix that pool. From my understanding, even when I took over as the executive director, I opened the pool the first year, and I'll be very honest with you, okay? There wasn't a whole lot of use. It wasn't a whole lot of use. Not for the $5,000 or $6,000 that it actually costs you per month, and the chemicals and the staff and actually, maintaining the pool. A lot of our kids, they rather actually go to Jackson Lick and swim where it's actually outside. A lot of the kids just did not swim in the pool. So after that, I kind of made the decision to close the pool. We're currently evaluating the pool and what we may or may not be doing with that space. I don't want dead space in the building. Of course, like I said, we're going to come up with the best plan that we possibly can to see fit, and also a cost-effective plan. $600,000 is just a lot of money, and That's just based off of, you know, a very rough estimate. You know, there could also be some structural damage, you know, done, you know, by the pool with the chlorine seeping out into the walls and whatnot. If you look up the side of the walls out of the side of the building, you'll also see some cracks and whatnot starting to accumulate in that side of the building. When I started to see those types of things, it definitely became a safety issue for us, and we closed it.
Okay, fair enough.
And let me address the pool issue too from the city standpoint. The city has two pools, Jackson Lick and the Hall Manor Pool. The chief and I have consulted on this, and we've had a large number of discussions about it. We consider getting both of those pools up and running and operational as key to our public safety strategy and our education and youth and recreation strategy for the summer. We've got Jackson Lick ready to go. That required less of an investment than Hall Manor. Hall Manor had been basically neglected and shut down for a longer period of time. In order to fix it right, it's going to cost north of that, closer to $1 million. However, we think we've got a patch that will work at least in the short term and allow us to get that pool open, and we're doing whatever we can to try and get that open for this summer. Pools are very expensive, but the city is prioritizing its money. In the case of the Hall Manor Pool, that's CDBG money that we want to use to fix up the pool, and we think that that is essential to the community and to having a good summer.
Okay, very good. Mr. Boyd.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here this evening. Honorable Mayor, also Chief of Police. People in the uptown area, I'd like to say this evening, stay tuned for this one. Mayor, we talk about that the city of Harrisburg is broke, but all of a sudden we find money to take care of lights. I'd like to say I went to a meeting almost 10 days ago in the south side of Harrisburg where people must be taken out of their property and the streets are falling, and this city says that they will do something. Mayor, my first question to you is, when will you be firm enough to say this will be taken care of in 30 days, 60 days, or 90? Because you are avoiding all of the issues when it comes to that part of town, and I can say that directly to your face. I have two other questions, but I'd like you to answer that in front of this community here that's from the uptown part of Harrisburg.
Okay, good. I think you're referring to the 14th Street sinkhole that we have currently. We've had a series of good community meetings over the past several weeks with residents of that area. The city's doing a number of different things, including assisting in terms of temporary relocation, building inspections, working with a variety of services in the community to provide homeowners with the immediate needs. We've had 9 homes that have had to have been condemned, declared unfit for human habitation as a result of this sinkhole. So it's a significant problem, but we're working with each of those families, and each of those families has different needs, and we're trying to address them. We have insurance help, we have mortgage help, we have legal help. It's all lined up, and we're in constant communication. What we really need to do is we need to do a geological survey of the entire area. And we are working closely with Capital Region Water, and we are going to be sending to City Council, you'll see it on the agenda for next week, a proposal to use money from the host fee to fund that survey. The host fee is a pot of money that's supposed to be used for environmental related causes. We think a geological survey is an appropriate use. I have support from City Council leadership at the moment to do that. I think there's joint support for everyone to do that survey, and we're going to split the costs with the Capital Region Water, the former Harrisburg Authority. So the city will pay for half, Capital Region Water will pay for half. That survey will not only give sort of closure to or certainty to the families that live on 14th Street, but also the immediate surrounding area. If you live on 13th Street or 12th Street, you're worried because there is a fundamental geological shift in the limestone that's causing a lot of sinkholes. There are over 100 sinkholes in that area, and the question is, which homes are safe, and potentially can there be some level of remediation that we can do to sort of firm up the geology there. So that's the course of action. We've had public meetings, we've had a lot of individual meetings with the families affected, and we're going to move to this larger survey. That's not something that can be done overnight. That's going to take at least a month once we identify the funds to do the larger survey. And the decision was made not to repave the road in the short term until we have a chance to see, to do that larger survey and to sort of get a sense of continuing settling which is going on. Even since the main event, which has now been a number of weeks, there have been additional sinkholes popping up. It's a very serious issue. We're also talking to our state legislators, Patty Kim and Rob Teplitz, about looking for state-related funds that might be able to help, as well as our federal delegation. So we really are taking that issue seriously. It's a particular issue for the south side of Harrisburg because of the limestone geology that exists in that area.
Okay. Mr. Boyd, before you get to your question, who is the end of the line in the questions? Louis, are you the last one?
Yes, sir.
Folks who are standing, we do have chairs in the front, so if your legs are getting tired, please come on up and take a load off your feet. And Mr. Boyd, if you could do just one more question, because we do have a long list of people who would also like to ask questions, and we're trying to wrap up by 7:30.
I'm quicker than what you think, my brother. Number 2 question is, it seems like this city is so dealing with nonprofits right now in this city. Mayor, I'd like to ask you, and I want to clarify that, so I'm looking directly into your eyes. Why aren't you using the availability of the nonprofits that you are trying to take into this city and take it over? How come they can't help people? That's my number 2 question. Number 3.
Well, I believe wholeheartedly in the nonprofits, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Even on South 14th Street, we've been directing people to some of the nonprofits in the community which can provide them with support and aid. We're also working with the nonprofit community on a variety of initiatives throughout the city, everything ranging from cleanups to mentoring programs. So I fully embrace the nonprofit community, Mr. Boyd. Yes.
Okay, if I may, I'm going to consolidate 2 questions that came in from the audience, and then we'll jump to you.
Oh, I have another meeting.
Oh, you have another meeting. Okay, go ahead.
Sylvia Rigo, that was my question that I had proposed about the young black men getting harsher sentences. And Dr. Arlene, why has the research stopped? It should never stop. Our young black men are disappropriated minorities. And that is something that should never stop until it's fixed. Also, I commend the Y for working with the juveniles, but I also work with a nonprofit that deals with ex-offenders on a daily basis. And it disheartens me when I do resumes and find out that these young men in their 30s had only committed a crime for the first time and did that many years. And now they're home and they can't get jobs. And I commend the mayor for working with the nonprofit that I do work with. So I know firsthand that he is on board with the nonprofit that I am dealing with. I just want you to understand that the research cannot stop until something's done. I have witnessed setups where they set the people up to bust the people coming to buy the drugs on the corners of Harrisburg, only to see those same white guys come back to the same corners to buy drugs. So I don't know if they just take them away, slap them on the wrist and say, go back across the river, up the river, wherever you came from. But it's like they're not punished. They're just taken off the corner for that period of time. And when I looked at District Attorney Marcico's son and the young black man that was with him on the same crime, and the black guy had different charges than his son, I was disheartened. They did the same, they committed the same crime, but the black guy got a felony charge added to his, and Marcico's son did not, whereas his charges could be misdemeanors and taken off his record, but the black guy will be stuck with that felony charge that they may never take off his record. Thank you.
If I may address that, the research, I assure you, continues. And I think one of the one of the issues I have with being a researcher, and I spent 15 years doing evaluation research, and we would do all these studies, government studies for the federal government, for local agencies, and say, here's our results, here's what you need to do, here are our recommendations. We can only do so much with the research. We need to rely on people to interpret the research and then take action. So, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
The nonprofit that I work with, we just did statistics for 5 years on how many people repeated. Something that no one really, I mean, the government may do it, the state may do it, but not too many nonprofits or people that deal with ex-offenders do that. And we've done that to see how often it's happening with race and everything. We're doing a study now, and Penn State needs to step up since they already know and they've started. You spend a lot of money on research.
Yes.
So I know it's a small pot, but you could dip down in there and help this situation, because I know for a fact, I'm 57 years old. I wasn't raised in a home with a gun. Most of our young men that have these weapons did not get them from their homes.
Yes, they get them from somewhere else.
They're coming, and this is a big thing, but something has to be started. And I believe that Penn State has enough resources that they can start this research and reach out to the nonprofits and reach out to the community and get something solved. No parent wants their child to walk out the door and commit a crime. When you say if they're raised right, we are raising our children to be productive citizens. But once they walk out of that door, it's like we don't have control, but we want resources. When my son was 16 years old, he's 39, I called every agency that I could, depot everybody, asked him for help because I seen him going down the wrong path. And I was told until he commit a crime, there's nothing for anybody to do. And my son's serving 5 to 10 in Huntington State Prison right now. He's been in and out of jail. It's no excuse because he should have learned the lesson. But at 16, as a mother, I was willing to try to have him placed somewhere to teach him to show him he was going on the wrong path. But there was no such facilities. I don't know if a facility could be created, but something needs to be done more than the Y. The Y cannot handle the juveniles that are out there roaming the streets. They can only do a small part. We need more community centers. We need more of something for our young people to do, white and black and Hispanic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Let's just go to the next question.
If I may, Penn State Harrisburg, and I'm part of this project. 3 of our faculty are doing an evaluation of the local, the Dauphin County Veterans Court and Drug Court to give back to the community. We're not charging the community anything for that. We've received funding to do that. So the evidence will be there whether this is an effective program or not. I totally agree. There's research out there. Research continues to be done. And as a practitioner, as a researcher, to not see that research being used by practitioners is disheartening. Because there's a lot of federal funds being used to establish whether or not things are effective. So when I came to Harrisburg and realized that you are doing things that have been established as effective, that is encouraging, because there's a lot of things that aren't being utilized. So I think it's a two-way street. We can only produce the research, but we can't implement it.
Right.
The practitioners have to do so.
Fair enough. Sir, your question.
Okay, my name is Robert Candidate, as Dr. Eileen said. When you hear me say I'm talking about Dauphin County. I'm the Director of Children and Family Services of Dauphin County. We have a variety of programs that we run. I'm the chairman of the Faith-Based Committee for Dauphin County. And, we need more help and more support from the community, because what we're asking Harrisburg to come on as another entity, because what we are a problem-solving initiative. You have 2 types. You have problem identifier. The entire community can identify a problem. We all know what's going on. But we solve problems. Back in 2012, I mentioned that because George Davis was our moderator. We have a faith-based meeting every year in May, where we bring different groups together, different judges, lawyers, the Secretary of Welfare was there. And what we're doing are working. So we're just asking Harrisburg to come on board and let's meet with myself, the coordinator from Dauphin County, and I don't want to get into too much detail here. We'll tell you what's working. Every year we take the 9th through 12th grades to Halifax for training. Detective Tim Carter goes with us, so you're already on board at the police department. Children and youth works in our program. So all the former agencies, all the community groups that are working with family work through our program. Now, the reason you don't hear about our program, because we don't produce statistics. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of kids that's not on the street. They're teaching others. They're becoming role models. We gave $2 million worth of equipment and stuff away this year at the farm show. So throughout the year, we're doing different things. But we're just asking Harrisburg to let's strategize, get together, and see how we can meet and come on as an entity, because all the other municipalities are on board. Harrisburg is on board, but we're talking about your new administration. We'll be glad to sit down and talk to you and show what we're doing that's working. Again, when I say we, talking about Dauphin County. Everything we're doing is supported by Dauphin County and Department of Welfare and some of the other agencies. So we're problem solvers, not problem identifiers.
Okay.
We know what the problem is.
All right, it's good to know that there are solution-oriented people out there. I'd like to try to move the line along and get more people to have their chance.
I'd be very happy to meet with you, and you'll find the mayor's always very open and accessible to meeting with anyone. And we've got probably some other initiatives and lots of good reason to talk. So let's set that up. Joyce is right there.
Okay, there you go, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Libby Prophet Belgrade. I'm a veteran, 9.5 years, active duty. I'm also a mother of 5, 4 boys, 1 girl. I served at the Dauphin County Assistance Office for 3.5 years. What I've seen, and what I've experienced is profound. I enjoy your establishment. Chief, I visited your office, seen you around. My sons participate in your program. And you mentioned something about veterans. As soon as people mention veterans, you guys say PTSD and blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna tell you something. Citizens' mistrust of abuse of authority. That goes from law enforcement officer and the legal system. I'm talking personal as well as what I've seen with my various experience. Correct programs. What's implied versus what's actually delivered. I'm talking about, and I can go into details if you want later on. I understand your time, so I'm just going to give you brief. Corrupt programs, what is implied versus what's actually being delivered. It saddens me. And I have traveled to 5 different continents: Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, various parts of North America, from Canada all the way down to Florida. And my children have experienced many different cultures. But what we have seen, what I have felt, and the blood that I have shed in this here piece of land, it's a crime.
Okay.
It is a crime.
Thank you very much. Is it Wendy? Ms. Carter?
Yeah. Okay, I'm born and raised in the city like the chief and Mr. Harvey, and I've retired. I can't believe it's going to be a year, May 31st. I do miss the job. Once you're a cop, always a cop kind of thing. And I just had major back surgery, but a week ago today, and I just wanted to say a couple things as I listen, because I'm going to figure out a way to give back. Come up here, mentor, do something, because I don't feel old and I feel like I need to do things. But the one gentleman, the younger black male, I don't know if he's still in the room or not, he had shorts on, I believe. He had mentioned about the dispatch calling the county control. From my side of the fence now, calling the dispatch, regardless of what jurisdiction you're calling from, it's frustrating. That, as you said, Mayor, that does need to get smoothed out some, because I feel empathy for the young lady that said that she called, about the call at Pfeffer and Penn Street and whatnot, because it's like it's unfortunate that we don't have our dispatchers anymore, because they knew us, they knew where we were located at, they knew our jurisdiction, so to speak, where that county jurisdiction does not understand the layout, if you will, so to speak. And they knew how we worked. They knew our personalities and whatnot. So you need to take more initiative and demand. I mean, even as an ex-police officer, I'm trying to get an incident number. They can't give you one. When you call there, they say, oh, they don't have it. It's crazy. They have a computer there too. It's just they have certain little procedures. So I encourage Chief and Mayor and you all in the county to work that out, because for everybody, that's frustrating. The other thing I want to say is, Chief, I think, sir, I'm sorry I don't know your name, you know mine, but you had mentioned to the chief about when to call 911 and when not to, and then he got sidebarred. And I just want to say, not overstepping my bounds here, but not when you say 911. 911, they don't want to hear from you unless it's a shooting, a bad accident, a fire, something major. Otherwise, you need to call the non-emergency number. And, you know, when you say about the gun, I'm not saying you didn't hear gunshots, because I'm sure you did. You hear them all the time around. But a lot of people tend to use, oh, we have a gun, you know, and then that tries to expedite the police. But we still need to expedite in a safe manner to get there. And the other thing I wanted to just say in regards to maybe the referencing the minority male, black male being sentenced higher or more or whatever, I just want to say this piece, and I see it. We have biracial sons, so you know, our sons can be victim of that as well. There's jurisdictions that border our jurisdiction that racially profile, and it's going to go on and continue to go on. I mean, racism is going to continue, unfortunately, but it's we as the police officers, and we have to break that. We as the community have to break that. So if you all have a son or somebody that wants to have dark tint on their car, they're just drawing attention to themselves. So you got to encourage them not to have that tint on. And, you know, but certain little Pembroke, Paxton, whatever, watch out. I'm just saying. And I guess I'm pretty much done. Well, I'm just keeping it real. So
Okay.
thank you.
If I could get Chief Carter to respond to the question of when to call 911 versus not, because I have a question about elderly neighbors worried about drug dealing, but they want to do something, but they fear retaliation. And at the Midtown Friends public safety session, I heard you and David Rotero talking about sort of when in doubt, call it in, right? So maybe you can clarify what you would recommend for people to do in situations like that where they're a little hesitant about potential retaliation. We have another question about neighbors having issues being harassed by their neighbors, but you know, retaliation is a concern as well. So maybe you can talk about how to deal with that and when to call the non-emergency number versus the emergency number.
For regular police dispatch calls, 558-6900, what usually happens is that people call 911 to get the police there quicker, say, you know, that there's shots fired, you know, there's someone shot or something like that. And that creates a backlog in our call volume. If it's just misunderstanding by a neighbor or a neighbor, just 558-6900. The police will get there. You know, when we get calls, we prioritize the calls. They go to the supervisors working the streets and they prioritize the calls and they send the officers out. Your call will be answered, but everybody that calls, and I understand this here, every person that calls the police, they feel that they need the police just like that. You know, because their problem is an important issue. We understand that, you know, but you have to also understand, you know, that we have to prioritize calls and respond to the most serious calls first. So for regular, just like dogs barking, loud music is 558-6900. If there is a shooting, you know, let us know that they're 911.
And if I understand,
558-6900, regular dispatch number, 911, emergency number. And I want to say this here, you know, it's like, I liked our city dispatch too, but you know, we can't go backwards, we got to move forward. We can only make things work, we got to work with what we have, you know, and we're learning, it's all new to us, and so it's going to get better, you know, just bear with us and just hang in there. You know, we're evaluating everything and things will get better.
and if I remember your advice from the Midtown Friends session for suspected drug dealing, You want that called into 911 with plate number, car description, as much information as you can provide, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
very good, thank you. Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Angela Johnson, and I'm an Uptown resident. I've been dealing with a lot of vandalism from younger children. This past Mother's Day, I received a rose bush from my husband and my children for Mother's Day, and some children pulled it up out of my garden and just walked away with a whole rose bush. They broke in a lot of different things in my garden, and I noticed these children, they vandalize a lot of other people's property as well, and I would like to know what the city is planning on doing in holding the parents accountable. I know you talk a lot about having programs for the children and programs for the children. However, there were parents before there were programs for the children, and parents must be held accountable for their children. When I was growing up, if you vandalized someone's property or if you did something and someone called the police, your parents paid a fine. And it did not matter if you came from a single parent home or if your grandmother was raising you or if you had an incarcerated parent. If you got in trouble, that was the consequence, and you learned not to break the law. And I just would like to know where the city is at on that, because it's a good thing to have programs for the children, but you also need to have some responsibility for the parents, especially parents who refuse to parent. And that's where the majority of the problems come from, are parents who refuse to parent. I would also like to know if the city has any type of plan to do something with the sneakers hanging off the power lines. That is really disturbing to me, and it's a problem. It just makes me feel uncomfortable to drive through that area. I'd also like to say, not too long ago, across the street from my home, there was a shooting. A young man was shot, and this home had turned into a party home for some young adult, college-age children, and we were finding condoms in our driveway and whatnot. And I would just like to know where the city is on as far as possibly revisiting the issue of their curfew. Because I don't really understand how 12 and 13-year-old children can be out at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I mean, there's nowhere for them to go. They can't get into anything that's open at that time. And my grandmother used to tell me the only thing out that late is the devil. So I would like to know where the city is in possibly revising their curfew. I mean, I understand you would have to have a...
Yeah, let's go ahead and get answers to curfew and to parental accountability for juvenile vandalism.
The key is that we have to hold the parent accountable. That hasn't been done, you know, but for the most part, most parents raise their kids correctly. You cannot control a child once he leaves your door. I'm not making up excuses for their behavior towards you, you know, but I know some of the greatest parents in the world, and they raise their kids correctly. When they get around other kids, the peer pressure plays an awful lot in this here. However, you're right, you know, we should start charging the parents, and we're going to start doing that here. We're looking at curfew for the summer. We do have a curfew policy. I've been in a conversation with City Council President Wanda Williams. They want to maybe look at it and, you know, tweak some things on it, but there is a curfew policy that we have right now. We're going to enforce that curfew policy because kids should not be outside. And I guarantee you something, if we pick up a juvenile outside after curfew, unsupervised by their parents, or with an older brother or sister, 18 years old or over, that parent will be charged.
Well,
We're
there
going to
you
start
go.
charging them. You know, but if you look at stats, and hopefully that the doctor, she can back me up here, you know, juvenile crime is committed between the hours of 3 and 7 p.m. That's right. Between 3 and 7, for the most part. You know, but if we do find kids outside after curfew, we're going to charge both parent plus child. You know, as you walk down 6th Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, you know, you see many different houses. Some look the same, some are different, but those are houses you have different value systems from like parents, you know. What's going on nowadays is that you have younger parents. You have parents that don't know how to be parents. You know, so it's a whole lot of problems going here that needs to be corrected. You know, I sympathize with, young black men going to jail. I sympathize for anybody getting locked up. As a police officer, most police officers, they won't say that there, but I do. I sympathize with it because most of it comes from not knowing. And those that do know, who keep going to jail over and over and over again, that they just don't care. Now, my thing is that, there was a homicide like last year. We investigated it. We're talking to a young juvenile male who committed it, and he said, well, I'll just get me a lawyer. I said, well, and that's good. I said, but son, look at Dauphin County Prison. It's overcrowded. They all had lawyers too. So, you can do what you want to do, but the thing that we have to look at is an education piece, to educate our youth on things not to do. Not to do, how to do the right thing. One thing I was talking about recently, and I'm sort of like running on, sorry about that, is that
we've got 5 more minutes.
we have to learn, we have to teach our kids our history, where we come from, where our grandparents come from. I'm not necessarily talking about slavery, I'm talking about, just history period, family history, all kinds of history, because these youth walking around here today, they don't understand where they come from, they don't understand value system. They're the designer drug kids, they will try anything for excitement. We also have to go back, we have to look at, the video games that they're playing, Call of Duty and different things like that. They have no reality, they have no sensitivity to someone else. We got to change that culture in order to bring about a more peaceful and calmer society. And that's the problem. Mr. Mayor, do you want to comment on that?
I think you said it brilliantly. All right, Louis, and then I hope to get the last 2 questioners before we get to repeats.
Thank you.
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pappenfuse. Good evening, Chief Carter, Doctor, and Harvey. You're doing a fantastic job. The Camp Curtin era for me is where my heart and soul lies. I'm doing a capital campaign for the church. One of the elements of the church is its tower, which geographically it's on a plateau. We were having a meeting about the church, and an officer came in and said, do we have access to the tower as an observation platform? And I put that into the design of the tower so that officers can actually go up to the tower and use it as an observation piece. That tower is a cornerstone of the community. It's the highest. I'm designing it to ring on time and to get the community on time and focused on what the righteous things are about the community. Right now in this community, we have the fair housing. We don't have a CAC like the Hill, and we need an infrastructure to create programs. We need a CAC in the uptown area so that we could run those programs to teach those children what not to do. For example, we have the Pride of the Neighborhood. That building right now is closed. We can put the CAC in that building or in the fair housing. There's 2 floors. We need programs in this area. Speaking about cameras, there's different types of cameras. Now we can have cameras that actually create a boundary by stop signs. When people drive through the stop sign, they'll take their picture as well as give them a fine. That creates revenue, but it also creates a community boundary that nobody can get out unless they're being seen. We have to make sure that we control our area. This is a specific and a special place in Uptown Harrisburg, and we have to look at different mechanisms to keep it. Every community that is successful has the same elements. If we want our community to be successful, we have those elements. All we have to do is design it, redesign our community. We have what it takes. Teach our children regards to the cops. We need more cops coming out of this region if we want to balance it out. So we have a PAL program for our kids in this region. It's redesigning our community for success. If you're not redesigning your community, it is doomed to fail.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll try to get both of you folks in before we have to wrap up.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Blade. I completely agree. We have all the resources we need and great people in our communities. We just need to come together and believe in each other, and I see it happening a lot. I see it happening a lot in this city. However, we need protection. And in my neighborhood, twice since I've lived here 2 years, we've had 2 drug houses, and one turned into a trap house. We did everything we were asked to do. We've talked to landlords, we've tried to combine as a neighborhood, we've called the police for every code violation, we've called the police for every crazy sound, we've called the police for paintballs, we've called the police with, we saw drugs being sold, and I'm not saying they've responded, but I don't know who's gathering all of that on that one house for the police to understand that this is an ongoing, I feel like a different officer comes every time. When I call dispatch, it's a different person every time. Sometimes they're kind of rude. Sometimes they act like we're just it's hard to call. We're known as cop callers in our neighborhood, yet we still do it. And they always know it's us. And the drug house the drug house we have now, the new drug house in the last 2 months, we've called, it must be 15 times. We've called on their cars parked illegally. We've tried to give you guys everything you could have. We've talked to our police liaison. There's been no communication with us, so we don't understand what's happening, but we know it's 2.5 months, and they're getting more organized, more violent, breaking into more abandoned houses. The last abandoned house we called about, the police couldn't find it, so they came to our door, because I gave my name and number to ask us about it in front of the whole neighborhood. So we are really on the line. We will be on the line. We love our neighborhood. We don't mind doing it. Thank you. We just ask for you to do, and I'm not accusing you of not doing everything you can. I don't know, I'm new here. And I believe everybody here cares or you wouldn't be here. So I'm just telling you there's a gap. There's not a place I felt like I could go to say, hey, there's a drug house, and they're starting to move into other houses, and now they're doing military tactics out back with semi-automatic paintball weapons, and they're shooting at the school, so I called the school superintendent. She passed it off to the CFO. It's like, I don't know who's actually looking at this one problem, but it's getting out of control. And now when the police come, we know they just dodge right into the next house they've broken into. We have 4 blighted abandoned properties on our block. We mostly have single mothers with lots of children on our block. It is not an appropriate place. They stick out like a sore thumb, and I don't know why nothing's been done. And if the police are trying to watch them to prevent some greater crime, I don't know your business, and that's fine, but it's not communicated to us. I feel in danger, and I know every time I call, they know it's us. There were shots at 4:45 this morning, and I didn't call because I've called 15 times, and the police just drive by. And then people are just like, oh, you're calling the police again. It's hard to know what to do, and I'm just asking if there's a way that we can, if there's a drug house in your neighborhood, call here and somebody will get on it, and here's a case number and you can follow through, but there's nothing like that.
Chief Carter, what do you do about we've got a hot spot. What do we do about it?
First of all, I'm really sorry about that. We will take care of that there, but if you
I
can go
appreciate your
outside
efforts. I don't mean
and
to
talk
be
to, no, it's fine, ma'am. If you will go outside and talk to Captain Moody, give them the information. We have a lot of things going on right now in this here city. Only certain people know about this here. I cannot release any information to you about it, but there's a change coming. So if you will go outside and talk to Captain Moody, standing right there, give them the information, we
I
will.
love this city. This city is filled with the most amazing, I as well have traveled the whole world, and I'm staying here for the rest of my life. I've never been in a place like this, where people have so much true love for each other, where any idea you have, people pick up and work on it. I've never seen so much volunteerism, so much caring. I think that we can just be the greatest city ever, and I really believe enough people care, and I just want to end that on a positive note, because I believe in this city.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have one last one. I'm sorry, we're going to run out of time before we do repeats, Mr.
Hi, I'm
Johnson.
Jeremy Domenico, homeowner in Allison Hill.
Speak in the microphone.
First off, I'd like to thank everybody at the podium. You guys do a tremendous unsung job. Secondly, everybody in this room here, we can make a difference. The time that we took to sit in this forum to gain information, normally on a day I would have picked up 3 bags of trash. I do it every day. When I do it, my neighbors have started doing it. I live in a viciously part of Allison Hill. I have no problems. My wife, 95 pounds. We disarm everybody with a smile. Every night we walk out. When guys swell on me, I swell back. How you doing? It's not that serious, okay? I speak from experience. 30 years ago, I did something terrible. I spent 22 years in Huntington. I have atoned for all that. I'm free and clear, and now I can be Joe Citizen. And by doing that, I have to become involved and turn our city back into the neighborhoods that we all grew up in, okay? Put this cell phone down, put your iPad
iPad down just for a half hour. You've got 1,500 Facebook friends. Do you know your next door neighbor's name? That says a lot about us as a society, okay? I went away for all that stuff. I came home and I just want to get back to what this city used to be. And all we have to do, once a day, take that Wise trash bag out. Pick up, it's not your trash. Doesn't matter. People will see that and they will start duplicating. Thank you for your time. Yes,
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you very much for those inspirational calls to get involved. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm sure Jamian would be happy to take information from anybody who care to help mentor, which is one of the key themes that we heard at tonight's session. If you have questions that didn't get answered, please write them down. We have pens and paper outside. We will try to get answers for you from the relevant people, and we'll put it up on the Penn Live website as soon as we can get the answers for you. Thanks everybody for coming, and keep on working to make Harrisburg a great place.